Hello again, everyone. This is Chris here. That's Robert Harding, and this is the Citizen Sports twice weekly.
Can't say bi-weekly.
We can't say bi-weekly. We're doing a special Stop the Presses edition of the Citizen Sports Weekly here on Monday, October 5th, 2015. If you're a Dolphins fan, I guess today is a happy day. It is a happy day. It's also a sad day because, Joe Philbin, he had good intentions. He tried hard. It just didn't work out. And Stephen Ross did the right thing today in dismissing him. That being said, I think that you feel bad for Joe Philbin because, again, he did try hard. You don't want to see any coach get fired, lose his job. I heard that when he got the news, he actually asked Ross, can I drive home, tell my wife the news, and then come back? I mean, he didn't want his wife to hear this on social media. And I just think that speaks volumes to the character that Joe Philbin has. But again, this is a business. It's a results business, and if you don't get the results, it's bye-bye. And that's what happened to Joe Philbin. So he gets paid for next year. He's got a nice little consolation prize he's walking away with. He'll get another job as a position coach someplace. That's the way the NFL works. It's one big network. So I don't shed many tears for Joe Philbin. But now we move on to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell.
What do you think of this guy?
Well, I watched this press conference, and look, he talks a good game. Okay, he's a former NFL player. I mean, the guy, you look at him, you're like, yeah, he's a former NFL player. I mean, this guy
looks like a tight end.
Guy looks like a tight end. I mean, he looks like he's played in the NFL. And he says the right things, and that's good to hear, okay? And there was a lot of the season left, no doubt about it. But I'll tell you, my concerns about Dan Campbell is, number one, he's never been a coordinator or a head coach at any level, okay? He's been a position coach. So obviously that's going to change. How's he going to be able to handle being responsible for a 53-man roster on game day, making game day decisions, timeouts, challenges? He's never had to do any of this stuff before. And, it's not like there's a learning curve here where you get a pass if you make the wrong decision. I mean, this is the big leagues. So I'm kind of curious how he's going to handle these things, okay? The other thing is how the players respond to him, because obviously the players did not respond to Joe Philbin, and I'm kind of curious that when they were complaining about Joe Philbin's practices with pads on Thursday, and then, our new interim coach there comes in and says, well, we're going to have to compete harder. We're going to have to play, compete hard every day, not just in games but in practices. When Dan Campbell says those things, and you wonder how the players are going to take this when they're complaining about padded practices on Thursday. So Dan Campbell will obviously get much respect from his players because he is a former player, and I think that does play a role in these things sometimes. I mean, Bill Belichick is not a former NFL player, okay? But he wins. So ultimately, I mean, as a Dolphin fan, my feeling is, I wouldn't say the season's over, but it's pretty darn close when you're 1-3 and you got 2 division losses and you haven't even played New England yet. So to me, it's like enjoy it, enjoy what happens, and see what happens. And maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe this team will play up to its potential. There is talent there, no doubt about it. I'm talking about you, Tamakong Sue. You've been coasting the last few weeks, and I saw some plays yesterday where you could have wrapped your arms, made a tackle, and you just let him slide by Ivory, the running back. Not happy about that. You're getting paid way too much to give a half you-know-what effort. You got to play harder, man, really. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see how this team responds. They've got the bye week. They play their next game at Tennessee. I will have friends at that game. My friends Matt Harburger and Tony Porter.
That's Nathan Baker country.
The guys I met at the Dan Marino signing at the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, they're going to be at this game in Tennessee in less than 2 weeks. I'm kind of curious what their thoughts are going to be when they get there and everything. So it is going to be interesting. I mean, you've got nothing to lose here. So, Robert, I just want to know, you being the Bills fan, obviously a big NFL fan, what your thoughts about all this are.
Well, it's the way that this transpired. Bringing Dan Campbell in, and I think there's I remember this with Rex Ryan because that's still pretty fresh. Marone's gone. Everyone's glad Marone's gone. Rex Ryan comes in, and it's like anybody but Marone.
Yeah.
So, Rex had a track record, obviously, a head coaching background. So, you kind of know what you're going to get. You never know if he might change some things up in his approach, but you know what's coming in anyway. but still, there was this honeymoon period, and I think Dan Campbell will have that up until his first game. If there's a real change in attitude in these players, and they go out there and they're fighting, and even in a loss, if they're at least competitive, I think people will respect that. If that doesn't happen, then you wonder, well, Dan Campbell was part of Joe Philbin's staff. Where do we go from here?
I mean,
so
it's interesting how when a team makes a coaching change, they usually go for the exact opposite of the coach they had before.
Right.
Rex Ryan gets let go with the Jets to hire Todd Bowles, who's obviously the anti-Rex. Okay, the Bills, Doug Marrone leaves. Obviously he was an interesting person, and they go with Rex Ryan, who's very brash and outspoken and everything. Now the Dolphins let go Joe Philbin, very low key, kind of succinct kind of guy, and they bring in Todd Campbell, who is obviously seems like a very fiery guy. So it's interesting how teams usually, when they make a change in the coaching ranks, they try to go for another type of voice for their players. So it'll be interesting to see, like I said, what happens here. He's got so many issues he's got to deal with. He's got, number one thing, and that's what he mentioned in his press conference, was offensive and defensive lines. I mean, ultimately, that is the biggest reason why the Dolphins are 1-3. They can't block to pass protect. They can't block to run. And they can't defend the run or get a pass rush. It all starts there. If those four things can be fixed, the Dolphins' season might actually be salvageable. Really, that really is the biggest thing. Now, obviously, there's still issues at linebacker, still issues in the defensive backfield. Those things have to be looked at too. And the other thing is the coordinators. You've got.
I was just going to ask you.
You got Kevin Coyle, who is still. As of now, as of 3:35 here on Monday, is still the defensive coordinator. I mean, everybody thought he was going to be the first guy to go. So, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, he's probably going to go. If it doesn't happen today, it's going to happen soon. And then Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator, who called 8 straight passes in the red zone yesterday and didn't run the ball once. So I don't know what's going to happen with these two guys. From what I'm hearing, Coyle's gone, Lazor stays, which is kind of interesting. I really think Lazor. I think whether he is following orders from, was he following orders from Philbin to call all those plays? Like, I want a pass play on this play. Maybe, I don't know. But I think that for Lazor, he's on notice that, like, look, and I think all the coaches are on notice that if this thing goes bad, they're all going to be gone next year. And, you're wondering what their attitudes are going to be. Obviously, somebody else mentioned that Campbell being the tight end coach, being elevated over coordinators, over other position coaches, is this going to create some type of a rancor in the Dolphins' office? I want to think these guys are professionals, that they're going to put that aside and continue to try to work the best they can to put these players in a position to win. I want to think that. But like I said, this is going to be an interesting experiment. Coaches usually don't get fired this early. It happens occasionally, but not often. The Dolphins have never fired a coach this early. So as a Dolphins fan, I kind of look forward to seeing what's going to happen, how the season's going to play out. When you have low expectations, any type of success is very gratifying. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. I'm going to try to be optimistic about it, but the records usually say is that interim coaches don't get their teams to the playoffs, because obviously there was a problem there to begin with, not just with the coaching but the players. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting, no doubt about it. So, Robert, anything else you want to add?
Well, in terms of the coordinators, I think it'll be interesting if they do get rid of Coyle. Who do they bring in? Just having experience watching him, Jim Schwartz would be a good option. Yeah. I think if he comes in as a defensive coordinator, you have a guy on the team who if this whole Dan Campbell experience doesn't work out, he can build his relationship within the organization, and who knows, maybe in 2016 he's the head coach.
I see. That's the thing. If you bring in Schwartz, are you saying that, like, this guy might be the head coach next year? And, I don't follow the Lions that closely, but, I mean, this guy was not a very good coach in Detroit. Obviously, that's why he was fired, okay? He seems to get the most out of Ndamukong Suh, which, okay, that's good. I don't know whether you bring him in as an interim defensive coordinator, because I don't think he's going to do it, number one, unless he gets paid a lot of money, and I don't think you're going to pay a guy that much money for an interim. And then the other thing is, in this situation, I think you will have some disagreement from the staff, because at least Dan Campbell is on the staff currently. Okay,
right.
He's one of those guys. You bring in Schwartz from the outside, I mean, it changes everything. My prediction is they're going to promote somebody from within the staff, whether it's a linebackers coach, a defensive line coach. I mean, really, that's where I see this happening. I can't see the Dolphins bringing somebody in from the outside at this time of year. So I think you're going to have to basically grin and bear it with what they have in the building in Davie. And like I said, we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, a special edition. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a Dolphins fan, come on. I've been one of you guys. You know that, man. 40 years I've been a Dolphins fan. I've been suffering with you guys. It stinks. It's tough. You know, yeah, we're kind of happy a little bit that Philbin's gone, but again, feel bad for the guy losing his job. But, you know, like I said, nothing to lose here. Enjoy the games. Just take it as a learning experience. The team gets better, plays better towards the end of the year. That's what we're looking for. New coach, hopefully next year, a good coach, and then hopefully we'll get back to where we belong. And until then, folks, well, I guess we'll see you this coming weekend with our Pick 6, right?
Yeah.
Yep.